is microcosm. And what you all just witnessed was a microcosm of sexual slavery. Like, for real. And if you don't know what the word microcosm means, it's a, how do I explain it? It's like, so anybody who's read the Book of Negroes knows that Aminata was a microcosm of slavery. And I'm not going to go any further to explain it because I really can't. But I'm so moved, Olivia, by your story. And it hits home because that's how I escaped my pimp in Calgary, was GHB. But she just described exactly what happened to me. Like, not exactly, that's her story, and that sounds fucking awful. But I'm so shocked to know that someone who is, you know, not my equal, but like we're both here to share a story. It's crazy, the similarities in the story that I was considered a missing person in Nova Scotia in the year of 2019 for 2 months straight because my pimp in Calgary had taken my passport, my house keys. I mean, it's not like I could have gotten into my house anyways, but he made sure I knew I had no identity, and if it weren't for the fact that he had accidentally consumed GHB, I would have never come back. And I mean that. I mean that to the fullest extent. So I just want to commend you for being so brave so early on in recovering from such a horrific event and sharing that, because people need to hear it because it's what's happening. Anyways, I'm just on my embarrassed and I will give my speech now. Right. This was a very difficult speech for me to write, mainly because I couldn't begin to fit everything I have to say about this subject in a 2,000-page encyclopedia. There is only so much I can say in 5 minutes, but I'll start by explaining some of my own story and also what brought me to Elizabeth Fry. I became a sex trafficking victim at the age of 16 years old. I had just completed the 10th grade. The manipulation, rape, and exposure to activities beyond your worst nightmares truly flipped my world upside down. I lost the sparkle in my eyes. I see pictures of before I met him. And when I say I see pictures of before I met him, I mean literally I have a photo of about 30 minutes before my mom left the buskers fair, and he swooped in and fucking, you know, my mom had no idea, and I don't want this to reflect on her, but you know, it's so crazy that you can go from being with your mom at a fair to 30 minutes later, you're now an underage victim of rape, human trafficking, child pornography, on and on. And he truly sabotaged my innocence. After testifying in court a year or so later, I became extremely dependent on drugs and alcohol. This made things more complicated and a fuck ton more difficult. By the time I had reached out to Halifax through Elizabeth Fry in late August of 2021, I developed a full swing crack addiction, and I had been addicted for a year at least. I was concussed, and I was choosing to continue to smoke crack instead of going to the hospital. I was living in a hotel and performing sex work on a daily basis just to feed my addiction and to keep a roof over my head. I was so happy and relieved and just grateful that I didn't have to keep fighting anymore. Like, I had found just reliable shelter when I met when I met the staff of EFRI, and each, like, unless you're not the vibe and you get fired 30 days later, like, every single person that works for EFRA will embody those values, and that is one of the most rare things to find in a nonprofit organization. And trust me, I've tested out several, not just in this province. After the amount of desperation for housing and the toll taken by living in hostels and hotels for so long, it was such a pleasant shock to have the Elizabeth Fry Society staff scoop me up off the streets at my rock bottom. Within 2 months, my addiction to crack had 100% dissipated. And this is not something a doctor can do for you. It was the inspiration of being around people who actually wanted to make a change. Like, the percentages of people who get sober from crack is less than 5%. And I went to detox, and that did nothing. But Elizabeth Fry was my detox. Like, I don't know, I can never explain to this day, I can't explain to people. I don't even like to take credit for getting sober along. I do, but sometimes I feel guilty because I'm like, that was a very clear, definite line. And like, that was my rock bottom, and it's like, at least I can identify that and, you know, move on from it. And I called every single housing resource that we had available in Nova Scotia from detox, and I never got a single call back, but an email from Emma Halpern a year prior was all I needed to get myself back on my feet, and it did. I truly feel that staying at Halifax and being a part of the EFRA community played a huge role in our sobriety, and I'm happy to say I'm 2 years sober in just about a week. So that's enough about me. In Canada, in Canadian society, we continue to let down a huge sector of the population, and that's specifically the same brave people such as Olivia, who just gave such an amazing speech. It's the same brave people who we are here to support today. I'm so lucky to have made it out. I'm lucky because less than 1 in 3 victims of exploitation are properly identified, which is the first of many, and when I say many, I'm talking years and years and years of court and police and just danger and being constantly paranoid that your trafficker is going to find you. 1 in 3 victims of exploitation are properly identified, which is the first of many necessary steps to recover. Then on top of that, 1 of 3 who are properly identified actually even make it to court. It's time to stop relying on government and law enforcement to tackle this crisis, because they simply won't. As citizens of this province, it is our right to see change if we demand it. It's actually a law, it's literally a law. Simply put, and if the answer you get is no, don't accept that answer. The next time I'm on a stage giving a speech, I don't want it to just be women who have been affected personally by this. I want the people giving the speech to be people who have never experienced it, because what we should be doing as a society is scooping these people up and protecting them. Why did she just have to tell you that? Why did she just have to tell you that? You guys should know. Everyone should know. And you do know. And that's why it's the biggest elephant of the room that the COVID virus caused. Is because everyone didn't acknowledge the fact that all of a sudden it was completely societally acceptable for everyone to do sex work online. You know, like, you really need to, if you're here tonight, then I assume that you know something about the cause, and I have to assume but that means that you're capable of knowing. So I really genuinely never want to give a speech ever again. This is the only time I've ever gone off script, and it's probably because I think it's probably the last time I ever will do this, and I have high hopes that it's because I will have to again. Back to my speech. Well, I basically said that. Okay. Yeah, I know I'm not the only person in this room who's sick and tired of the lack of resources allotted to this crisis, let alone the effort on the government's part. It should be as difficult to traffic another person as it is to rob a bank. But looking at the latest stats, our bank accounts are proving more worthy of saving than our own children. According to data collected by our own government, the most recent numbers having been collected in 2019, which is, by the way, 4 years ago, shows that the average sexual slavery victim in Nova Scotia is 14 years old. And most of us know that. Well, I say most of us, maybe we don't. But most of us know that the year 2022 to the year 2023, our housing crisis literally doubled in size. Unless something changes promptly in the fashion that is widespread, every person in this room will have an even more intimate relationship with this crisis, whether it be you or a loved one. It is an inevitability if nothing changes. What is beautiful about tonight is that I think everyone in attendance must have some desire for change, otherwise they likely would not be here. I'm 23 years old. When I was 17, I stood trial against a man who, with over 20 sex-related offenses, he had 27 sex-related offenses, and he had victimized over 600 unidentified underage girls and boys. He lived on Quartz Drive in Spryfield, a 5-minute walk from J.L. Ilsley High School. There is now an entire team within the Nova Scotian justice system that formed as a result of me standing up for what I believe to be right from wrong. This even includes 2 Crown attorneys that are specific to sexual exploitation and human trafficking. I've had the opportunity to do lots of work with the YWCA's and say, I believe I was actually kind of like their little guinea pig, not in a bad way, but I think had it not been for the fact that Dimitri and I did so well together and Deb and her client, they would have gotten that funding, and we know that. Now, with the help of Elizabeth Fry Society, I've been able to set a massive legal precedent. I'm the first North American to sue for the non-payment of sex work. And what I'm trying to say here is that anybody can do this. When I say anybody, I mean literally anybody. If you really believe in the cause that much, if you're willing to spend $105 on a ticket to be here tonight, I hope it's with good intention. Because in my opinion, it's one of the only times we shouldn't take no for an answer.